And it's a very good morning to the Gelding. Gelding, you're a little bit under the weather. That's no good.
Good morning, Professor. Yep, still trying to throw this Logie from last week.
Yeah, well, how about I'll do most of the talking. I think that would probably be a good idea for today.
Well, Professor, can I say from your profession that you're in, maybe that's a good thing? Something you're used to.
Something I'm very used to, Gelding. All right, well, Flemington, it's a 9-race card. The first at 11:55, not as early as in New South Wales, Gelding. We'd have to, if we were betting consistently in New South Wales, Gelding, we'd have to look at starting the show a little bit earlier each week.
Yes, we'd be on at 6 a.m. in the morning for the listeners, Professor.
The last today's at 4:40. There's only 9 races on the card, Gelding. The feature race 8, the Winter Championship Series final. They're all series finals today. It's a listed race valued at $200,000 over 1,600 metres. The track's a soft 5. I reckon that'll be upgraded, Gelding. I don't think it'll rain today. And the rails in the true position. Let's sound the horn in the true position. We're happy about that.
We're back at Flemington, Professor. Well, excuse me, listeners. Look, we're back at Flemington. As I say many times again, I have no problems with this track. I regard it as the best track in Australasia, Professor, and always is good. So, yeah, look, it's a soft 5 at the moment. Will almost be perfect conditions for the horses there. So, and as you said, if we don't get any rain in the day, who knows? Could be just a very good day's racing too.
Before I ask you for your 2 best bets, Gelding, you and I had a little bit of good fortune during the week. A runner in a midweek race in the metropolitan area.
Professor, are you excited?
Oh, I'm very excited.
Okay. Do you want to fill the listeners in?
Well, only because you've got a crook voice, Gelding. But you actually went to Sandown on Wednesday and represented the ownership.
Yes.
We were flashing home, but just managed to get a second in a metropolitan meeting, and I think there are more wins ahead for Savvy Rocker.
Yes, Savvy Rocker, very good. After winning on the synthetic at Ballarat in a 2-year-old race, Peter Moody moved it up into a midweek 2-year-old race. Unfortunately, we might have run into a pretty good one, Professor, that won, but Savvy Rocker certainly performed well. Just got Luke Nolan, as he said in his interview after the race, just said he got a little bit too far back, maybe one pair back, and Savvy Rocker chased home the ride of Blake Shin, which was an outstanding ride. Blake took his horse to the front. I better quickly just get the Blake Shin took his horse Superlicious from the Leon and Troy Corson's yard to the front, stacked them up, Professor, and then slipped away in the last 300 metres, and we just couldn't quite catch it. And heard Blake Shin interviewed. He's got a good opinion of his horse. So encouraging news about Savvy Rocker going forward, Professor.
Yes, Gelding, and things to look forward to. Having a little of a couple of weeks off, then we'll be back hopefully for the latter part of the spring.
Oh, well, Professor Peter Moody did say to me he had a listed race in Adelaide in the back of his mind, and on next Saturday in Adelaide. So could he change his mind?
I don't think so. Not on the video I saw, Gelding. I think he's going to tip it out, but that's okay. It's not a bad campaign. Our first campaign
for the breeding of this horse, which we think will become a mile or plus, Professor. To be winning over 1,200, then being placed over 1,300. A fantastic start. And, geez, you got to like that Vobis qualifying money, Professor.
Yes, we sort of haven't been the beneficiaries of it previously, but it does improve the dividend, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, when the horse wins a $16,000 race at Ballarat, and all of a sudden you get 25 in the bank. And then you go from that to win 9,000 for second at Sandown, Professor. And then you see the horse's prize money at 40,000. So, 3 starts for 40,000 in prize money, Professor. You certainly can't complain.
No, you can't, Gelding. All right, well, before your voice gives out, we better get on to the tips. What are your 2 best bets for today's Flemington races?
Finals day today at Flemington, Professor. The first tip, and probably what I think is the bet of the day, is race 3, horse 2, Craig. This horse, trained by Burnson and Young, to be ridden by Johnny Allen, Professor. This horse won very impressively last week, well, the 22nd of June at Flemington, over 16:20. Had the run of the race past them. The start before was a very unlucky second, Professor, and before that it won. So a horse in fine form, Professor, maybe a bit better than Savvy Rocker. 4 starts for 2 wins, a second and a third, Professor, and over 130,000 in the bank. So they're the type of horses you want to be owning. So Craig, an up-and-coming horse, hopefully will be able to win this final over 1,600 at Flemington, Professor. Excuse me. Then, Professor, going in race 9, a horse I fancied last week, Professor, Fleetwood. Race 9, horse 2, again, the Blue Army. Your jockey, Lukey Nolan, replaces Damien Lane, Professor, after last week, where Fleetwood missed the start by 5 lengths, flashed home up on the inside rail to run third, Professor, to be beaten by about 3 lengths. So if the viewers can remember last week's talk, Fleetwood before that beat a horse called the Black Cloud, which we were on 2 weeks ago, Professor, and won quite impressively. And they're talking of the Black Cloud as being a listed type of horse. So happy to give Fleetwood another try, Professor, over 1,200. Meets Bossy Nick again, but hopefully your jockey, Lukey Nolan, can get it out on time with the others, Professor, and we get an improved result. So my 2, Professor, race 3, horse 2, Craig, into race 9, horse 2, Fleetwood. And you like, Professor?
Yeah, Gelding. I'm going in the middle of the field, or the middle of the card today. Race 5, the Leilani Series Final, a quality race for fillies and mares over 1,400 metres. In this race, I like number 6, Gelding, Brazen Lady, coming out of barrier 6, a 4-year-old mare. Brazen Bow, the sire, Gelding. Brazen Bow won 2 Group 1s, the Coolmore and the Newmarket, more than $1 million in prize money. So some good breeding there.
Excellent breeding, and Brazen Boy was a very, very good racehorse, trained by Chris Waller. Won down the straight at Flemington twice in big races, and probably, as we've talked about previously, those races should be worth a bit more money, maybe.
And the owner of Brazen Bow probably thinks that as well, Gelding.
Well, I think he was pretty happy when he sold it to Stud, Professor.
Yeah. All right. So it's had 20 starts for 4 wins and 8 placings. So a 20% win rate, a 60% place rate. Impressive win last start at this track, Gelding, against just about the same horses in this field. Carries a bit more weight today, further another 3 kilograms, but I think the horse is good enough to overcome that. Some pretty good each way odds, Gelding, $4.60 and $1.90 at the moment. So that's great value for punters. Damien Lane's in the saddle. We want a better ride than on Fleetwood last week.
Yes.
He's currently leading the Jockeys Premiership, 133 wins in all classes, 79 in the metro area. He's 13 ahead of Blake Shin. So he's had a great season. Matthew Ellerton, the trainer, Gelding, Matthew Ellerton had a stroke in Bali during the week.
Apparently not in a very good way, Professor.
No, apparently not. Having further surgery. So we wish him and his family all the very best. I just picked that up while I was doing some research this morning.
Yes, heard about it myself during the week. A very good trainer, Matty Ellerton, out of Flemington, and not good to hear.
No. My second selection, Gelding, in race 7, the Santa Ana Lane Sprint, a quality listed race for over 1,200 metres. In this one, I like horse number 11, Gelding, Veloce Caro. I've been on that one before. Coming out of barrier 12, it's had 15 starts for 5 wins and 5 placings, 33% win rate, 67% place rate. 4-year-old Gelding, Nasoni, the sire, similarly to the other one, won 2 Group 1s, the Lightning and the Galaxy, over $1 million in prize money. So some more great breeding there.
Yes, Professor, and good to see you seeking with a Kieran Maher trained horse.
He did train one of our horses at some stage, didn't he, Gelding?
He did, Professor, for a little while.
I had to laugh, Gelding.
I think we're very happy in the stable we're in at the moment.
Oh, yes, Gelding. I had to laugh. I looked at the trainers' premiership. Kieran Maher's that far ahead. Daylight is running second. But we've got our trainer is coming in at about number 4 or 5. And Mick Price, another of our trainers, is at number 3.
Yes, and other trainers, the Hayes boys, in number 2. I got to admit, I was a bit surprised when I saw the trainers list, Professor. I would have thought Peter Moody would have been up there contesting with the Hayes boys for second or third. But anyway, they're flying at the moment.
The reason for that, Gelding, is that Savvy Rockers only ran 3 times.
Obviously.
All right, Gelding. 2 starts back, this horse won at Flemington and won over the same distance. So I take that as being very good form. And you can get some excellent odds at the moment, Gelding, $5.50 and $2. So that's great each way odds for punters. Celine Gaudray's in the saddle. She's currently 4th in the jockeys list at the moment, Gelding, with 42 wins in the metro area. So she's having a very good season.
In fine form, Professor, and excuse me, he's chasing Damien Lane, Blake Shin, and Michael D. 3 very, very good jockeys, Professor. So some of the other better known jockeys like Jamie Carr and Craig Williams are having breaks. So this is a chance for these jockeys to get higher up the list.
Yeah, and as you said, Gelding, Kieran Maher, the trainer, 101 wins. He's number 1 on the list. He's won $21 million in stakes money. So I think all the owners that are with Kieran would be pretty happy.
Has a fantastic operation, Professor, and just keeps on churning out winners.
All right, so my 2 best bets for today's racing: race 5, horse 6, Brazen Lady; race 7, horse 11, Veloce Caro. Now we turn to the Professor's Parlay, Gelding, which succeeded with the place Parlay. Race 8, horse number 1, Fleetwood, ran 3rd, and we were successful with the Western Bulldogs beating North Melbourne and Carlton beating Richmond. And for the place Parlay, it paid a reasonable $8.50, Gelding. So we're 14 wins from 26
Professor.
starts. We're back over the 50%. We're up at 54% now, Gelding. Starting to get into the area where I'm satisfied.
Fantastic, Professor. And as I said, you're a hard taskmaster expecting a profit over 50%, because during the week I was looking at a website for a tipping agency and they were spruiking how well they were doing at a win rate of 38%, Professor. And that was only just picking the racehorse. Now, we're batting over 50%, not only picking a racehorse and then picking two other sporting events, Professor. So, as I keep saying to you, you're way and above, outperforming a lot of betting sites around that are currently advertising and people are paying money for, Professor, to be involved in. So
maybe we
you're
should be looking
providing
for,
a very, very good service to our listeners.
We should be looking for some of those paper bags outside the front door, Gelding.
Well, there's certainly, some of the people we hear about that seem to be backing them and having wins all of a sudden come up with some lame excuses not for parting some of their winnings our way, Professor.
All right, Gelding. Well, let's have a look at today's parlay. The agreed bet of the day, race 3, horse number 2, Craig, for all the reasons that you mentioned earlier. And let's parlay that into Fremantle to beat Richmond, Gelding. Fremantle improving, going up the standings. They're 4th on the ladder, 9 wins, a draw and 5 losses. Richmond 17th, having what you would call an unsuccessful season, Gelding. 2 wins from 15 starts.
Is it unsuccessful, Professor, or will I be happy with the number 1 draft pick this year?
Well, you might get the number 1 draft pick the way you're going, Gelding.
Well, I think so, Professor. I think we meet North Melbourne in about round 20. So, yeah, we may be struggling a bit.
All right, Gelding. Well, why do I like Freo? Well, their defence, Gelding, it's ranked the second in the league. They only allow 74.8 points per game. As I said, the second best. Gelding, the Tigers attack 18th. They're ranked 18th in the league. They only kick 64 points a match on average. Their defence, 17th in the league. They allow in 101. So if you only kick 64 on average and you allow in 101 on average, that's why it's 2-13, Gelding.
Yes.
The bookies don't like it either. 46.5, which is almost 8 goals head start for Richmond.
Well, it was less last week against Carlton, Professor. It was only 41.
It's getting worse, Gelding. All right, and we'll parlay that into... Oh, and by the way, Fremantle's at home. So if it was going to be hard to start with at the MCG, it's even harder. It's being played in the West. So I think no chance for Richmond. And we'll parlay that into Brisbane playing at home to beat Adelaide. Adelaide being very, very disappointing when you see how close they were to making the finals last year. They're 14th, had 5 wins and a draw and 9 losses from 15 starts, Gelding. Part of the reason is their attack is ranked 12th in the AFL. They kick 82.1 points a game, but their defence is 15th. They allow in 79, so they've only got 3 points to play with there every time they run out. If the teams play better than expected, Gelding, they're going to lose. Brisbane ranked 5th in attack. They kick 93.4 points on average a game. They're ranked 4th in defence, Gelding. There's only 3 other teams with a better defence than them. They only allow 77.2. The line's 26.5. I think that's pretty kind, Gelding. I think Brisbane will win by more than 4.5 goals.
Is that because they played a draw only 4 or 5 weeks ago, Professor?
Yes, but it was in Adelaide, Gelding.
Exactly.
Now on Brisbane's home deck, and they've looked pretty good there over the last few games, Gelding. I find it very difficult for Adelaide to beat Brisbane. So today's parlay, race 3, horse 2 at Flemington, Craig, into Fremantle to beat Richmond, into Brisbane to beat Adelaide, and hopefully that one will come home. All right, Gelding.
Hopefully, Professor.
We better get off so that you can get the bets on and you can rest that voice up for next week's show.
Certainly, Professor. Yes, I may be looking for the granny nap during the day, I would have thought.
Geez, I might need one too, Gelding.
Beautiful. But
right.
We wish our punters all the best of luck today.
We do, Gelding. So until next week's That's Racing, it's good luck.
And good punting.